college football's public enemy number one, ladies and gentlemen. It is Brian Kelly. Guys, this whole Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, LSU situation is so unique because you have a coach leaving one program, right before the end of the season when that program still has a chance to make the college football playoff, and while in leaving that program gives them less of a chance to make the college football playoff because now they're without their head coach. The craziest thing to me in this whole Brian Kelly situation, I was like, he's leaving Notre Dame for LSU. Like, when is that going to be announced? When is that going to happen? It's going to be weird throughout the bowl season. And then I saw a tweet and it said, Kelly is expected to be announced as LSU's head coach tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my, what? I thought there was no way this could happen where a team can still make the playoff. You look at Notre Dame right now. Let's say this Brian Kelly to LSU thing didn't happen. And, Brian Kelly's still at Notre Dame. They have a chance to make the playoff. They have only one loss. You need Oklahoma State to lose. You need Alabama to lose by double digits. And then you could potentially make it as the 4 seed as a one-loss team. And Brian Kelly just says, I'm out, guys. Good luck. I got my press conference. I'm getting $95 million guaranteed, plus maybe incentives. Maybe incentives brings it to $100 million. And so, good luck. Good luck. And how the players found out, it's not a good way of handling it. Apparently, Brian Kelly ghosted all of Notre Dame's staff. There were Notre Dame coaches out recruiting as the news was coming in that Brian Kelly was taking the LSU job. They were out recruiting, trying to sell Brian Kelly's program to parents, to kids. You can do these in-home visits. So they've got recruiters, defensive coordinators, offensive coaches going into kids' houses saying, join this program with Brian Kelly. While it's being announced that he is leaving, here's a tweet. It says, Brian Kelly messaged Notre Dame's roster in Teamwork that I will be leaving Notre Dame, and I've read the message on my previous videos. It basically says, hey guys, sorry you found out, via social media. We're having a meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. where I'll announce that I'm leaving the program. And then it gets even better. Heard Brian Kelly met with the Notre Dame team for 11 minutes this morning and then left. It gets even better. It somehow gets even better. But then it gets more better because people are just going after Brian Kelly right now. Here's another tweet. 2 NFL coaches, they were graduate assistants at the time, thought they were invited to a party at then Central Michigan's head coach Brian Kelly's house. Kelly made them shovel snow all night instead. Brian Kelly is not a good person. This dude is literally the movie supervillain. I love Brian Kelly, right? I'm sorry, it's all coming together. It is so hilarious. And now, like I was saying at the start of the video, in turn, with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, it gives their program less of a chance to make the playoff. The chief chair of the College Football Playoff Committee said that the coaches leaving will play a part in the final college football rankings that are released on Sunday, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. It sucks for the players. It's not fair, but I 100% agree. If your head coach leaves, during the middle of the season or at the end of the season, right before you potentially play in a playoff game, that has to affect your team, and that unfortunately will, as an effect, devalue your team a little bit. There were a lot of takes like this last night on Twitter. These players already had their lives upended by Brian Kelly's departure. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee should not screw them doubly for something they had no control over within a sport in which coaches chase money like water. I disagree. I think, listen, my saying is, lose your coach, you lose your spot. Lose your coach, lose your spot. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but you have to understand, without the head coach, it's going to be a lot tougher for Notre Dame. You could say, well, they're going to band together, but I also think this has kind of gotten people off the bigger picture of the playoff, of Notre Dame's chances in the playoff. This is a team, their best win is a neutral site game against Wisconsin. They simply don't have the resume, and I know people are going to talk about, well, they're only a one-loss team. They haven't faced anyone since like week 5. Their second best win is a home win against Purdue. So it's like, Brian Kelly leaving is one thing, but the bigger picture is Notre Dame simply doesn't have the schedule that a playoff team should. They don't have the wins that a playoff team should. That's why they're not going to end up probably, or very likely, not making the playoff, even if Alabama loses by a lot and Baylor beats Oklahoma State. That would set up a Notre Dame versus Ohio State versus Baylor debate in the playoff committee, and then that's where you would factor in Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame. And guys, I'm sorry, lose your coach, lose your spot. It's terrible for the kids. It's not fair. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to judge things as they happen, and this is a situation that has happened for Notre Dame's future. I think Notre Dame's in a phenomenal spot when it comes to their head coaching search. To me, it comes down to two candidates, two extremely good candidates in Marcus Freeman, the current defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, who's an up-and-coming coach, was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati last year. This year is his first year at Notre Dame, or Luke Fickell. And it's said that Luke Fickell would only leave Cincinnati for two jobs, Ohio State and Notre Dame. And right now, obviously, Luke Fickell is going to decline to comment. He's got Cincinnati possibly into the college football playoff as the first group of 5 team. Completely rare, completely great feat. You don't want to screw with that. You're not going to say like, oh yeah, I'm going to take the Notre Dame job. You're going to completely brush it off. But there are rumors right now that Notre Dame is going to wait for Luke Fickell to finish his season off at Cincinnati, let the season end, and then he is their number one guy. To me, you can't go wrong with either Marcus Freeman or Luke Fickell. They're both phenomenal candidates, and this is basically the opposite of the current Oklahoma situation where Lincoln Riley just destroyed that program on the way out. This is a situation where Notre Dame should be fine, and Luke Fickell may. I would say Luke Fickell's a better coach than Brian Kelly. I would say that. I would say Marcus Freeman, we haven't seen him as a head coach, but he has the potential to be a better coach. And the whole LSU Brian Kelly fit, I don't understand the culture fit. We'll have to see how it works out. It's a big deal. What tends to happen with these deals, most of them do not go very well, although the deal I would compare this one to is the Jimbo Fisher Texas A&M deal. Now he's trying to turn that program around. They did have, I believe, 4 losses this year with the recent loss to LSU. But Jimbo Fisher is recruiting great right now at Texas A&M. So we'll have to see. I am not optimistic on Brian Kelly's fit with LSU. We'll see. I think Notre Dame is going to be fine. As for the short term, it's tough because you lose your head coach, and that could hurt you in the playoff rankings. But again, I will make the argument, I think we're losing sight of the fact that Notre Dame, quite frankly, just does not have the resume. They don't have the key wins. They don't have the strength of schedule that a playoff team should have, even though they are just a one-loss team. So that's my opinion on that. This is a pretty crazy tweet. Just to put it into perspective, Brian Kelly will be paid $9.5 million per year at LSU, which is more than 26 out of the 32 NFL coaches. This is why student athletes should have been able to profit off their name, image, likeness from the start. College football is a massive business. That is crazy. Brian Kelly is making more than like 80% of NFL coaches. And honestly, that's how it is with college football. These head coaches are so important, not just to coaching the games, but also with recruiting, also with culture, things like that. They are extremely valuable to a program. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.